The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the USS Defiant. Captain Jake Morrison stood near the large window, watching distant suns twinkle in the darkness. His ship moved slowly through space, far from Earth and the busy colonies. They were exploring new areas, looking for planets and resources that might help humanity grow. Jake had been a space captain for 12 years. He loved the quiet moments between discoveries, when his crew could rest and the ship could drift among the stars. Today felt different, though. Something was coming through on the long-range communications array. "Captain, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Ben Hughes from his station. Ben was young but smart, always the first to notice when something was wrong. "It's not from Earth or any of our colonies." Jake walked over to Ben's station. The signal was strange, made up of patterns he had never seen before. It was clearly artificial, made by intelligent beings, but not human. "Can you clean it up?" "Working. On it, sir." Ben's fingers moved quickly over his controls. The static slowly cleared, and voices began to come through. They were not speaking English or any human language, but the ship's computer was trying to translate. Ensign Amy Foster, their communications officer, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, the computer is picking up multiple languages. At least 7 different ones. They're all talking to each other." Jake felt his stomach tighten. First contact with alien life was something every space captain dreamed about, but it was also something they feared. Humanity had never met other intelligent species before. "What are they saying?" Amy worked at her station for several minutes while the bridge crew waited in silence. Finally, she turned around with a pale face. "Sir, I think you need to hear this." The translated voices filled the bridge. They were calm and official, like government officials discussing policy, but the words they spoke made Jake's blood run cold. "The human species has been observed for sufficient time," said one voice. "Their behavior patterns show they are a threat to galactic stability." Another voice, different but equally cold, responded. "The Vorthok agree. Humans form emotional attachments to Isley. They make decisions based on feelings rather than logic." A third voice joined in. "The Etherians have studied their communications. They fight among themselves constantly. They would bring chaos to our peaceful galaxy." Jake grabbed the edge of Ben's station to steady himself. These beings were talking about humanity like they were discussing whether to remove a dangerous animal from a preserve. The Nebulari motioned to proceed with elimination. Came another voice. "Before they can spread beyond their current territory." Seconded. "By the Zephites," said a voice that sounded like many people speaking at once. "The Hive has analyzed their expansion patterns. They will reach our borders within 50 years if left unchecked." Amy looked at Jake with fear in her eyes. "Captain, there are 7 different species talking. They're calling themselves the Galactic Council. The Synthri calculate a 97.3% probability of successful elimination if we act now," said a mechanical-sounding voice. "Waiting longer will only make the task more difficult." The final voice was different from the others, gentler but still firm. "The Verdani have communed with our ancient trees. The forest spirits agree that humans must be removed before they poison the galaxy with their unpredictable nature." "The Luminals concur," said a voice like wind chimes. "Light itself recoils from their chaotic energy. The motion passes. Humanity will be eliminated." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in terrible silence. Jake stared at the communication station, trying to process what they had just heard. 7 alien species, working together, had just voted to destroy humanity. "Sir," Ben said quietly, "should I try to contact Earth?" Jake nodded slowly. "Send a priority message to Admiral Rodriguez at Earth Station Alpha. Tell her we need to speak immediately. Use the emergency codes." While Ben worked on the transmission, Jake thought about what they had heard. These aliens had been watching humanity for years, studying them like scientists studying lab animals. They had seen human wars, human conflicts, and human emotions, and they had decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. The irony was not lost on him. These 7 species had formed a peaceful alliance, working together for centuries. Ataya had achieved something humanity had never managed: perfect cooperation. And now they were going to use that cooperation to wipe out the human race. Connection. Established with Earth Station Alpha, Amy announced. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez appeared on the main screen. She was a tough woman who had worked her way up through the military ranks. Jake had served under her early in his career and respected her greatly. "Captain Morrison, what's the emergency?" she asked. Jake took a deep breath. "Admiral, we've intercepted communications from an organization calling itself the Galactic Council. 7 alien species working together. Humanity." The Admiral's face went very still. "Show me." Amy played back the recording. Jake watched Rodriguez's expression change from disbelief to anger to grim determination. When the recording ended, she was silent for a long moment. Far away are they?" she finally asked. "Unknown, Admiral. But they seemed confident they could reach us. They talked about our expansion patterns like they've been watching us for years." Rodriguez nodded. "I'm calling an emergency session with Earth's leaders. Captain, I need you to keep monitoring their communications. Find out everything you can about these species, their technology, their numbers, their locations." "Yes, ma'am." And Jake, the Admiral added, using his first name like she had when he was young lieutenant, "Be careful out there, Fave. Been watching us. They might know about your ship." The connection ended, leaving Jake alone with his crew and the knowledge that humanity faced its greatest threat. 7 advanced alien civilizations wanted to destroy them, and humanity had no idea they even existed until today. "Captain," Ben said from his station, "I'm picking up more transmissions. They're starting to coordinate their fleets." Jake walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were preparing for war. Ships with technology humanity couldn't imagine, crewed by beings who had decided that humans were too dangerous to live. But as Jake watched the stars, he felt something the aliens probably didn't understand. He felt determination. Humans might be chaotic and emotional, but they were also stubborn. They didn't give up easily. And they had something the aliens seemed to lack: the ability to surprise everyone, including themselves. "Ben, start recording everything. Amy, monitor all frequencies. If they're planning to destroy us, we're going to learn everything we can about them first." The crew got to work, their faces serious but determined. Outside the window, the stars continued to twinkle peacefully, unaware that the galaxy was about to change forever. 7 alien species had decided to eliminate humanity. Because they were unpredictable and chaotic, they were about to learn just how unpredictable humans could be. The USS Defiant continued its lonely journey through space, now carrying the most important cargo in human history: the knowledge that humanity was not alone, and that their new neighbors wanted them dead. But Jake Morrison and his crew were not going to let that happen without a fight. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. The emergency meeting room at Earth Station Alpha buzzed with nervous energy. President Sam Carter sat at the head of the table, looking tired but determined. Around him sat the leaders of every major nation on Earth, along with the heads of the space colonies. For the first time in human history, old enemies were working together. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood at the front of the room, pointing to a large display showing star charts. "Based on Captain Morrison's intelligence, we estimate 6 months before the first alien fleets reach our outer colonies, maybe less." General Patricia White, head of Earth's combined military forces, shook her head grimly. 6 months to prepare for war against 7 species that have been spacefaring for centuries. We don't even know what their weapons can do." "No, they've been watching us," said President Carter. "They know our weaknesses, but they might not know our strengths." Dr. Helen Park, Earth's top scientist, looked up from her tablet. "I've been analyzing the communication patterns from Captain Morrison's recordings. Each alien species seems to specialize in different technologies. The Vorthok mentioned shields. The Etherians talked about energy weapons. They've divided up the work." "What does that mean for us?" asked Carter. "It means they're incredibly advanced in specific areas, but they might not be as adaptable as we are. Humans have always been generalists. We learn from everyone and adapt everything." Admiral Rodriguez nodded. "Dr. Park is right. I'm putting her in charge of a new research division." Every captured piece of alien technology, every scrap of data, we can find goes to her team. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Captain Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of the USS Defiant. His ship was playing a dangerous game, following alien scout ships at a distance while trying to stay hidden. They had learned to recognize the different alien vessel designs over the past month. Lieutenant Ben Hughes joined him at the window. "The Vorthok ships are massive, Captain. It's twice the size of our biggest cruisers, and their hulls seem to shimmer like they're made of liquid metal." "What about the others?" Jake asked. "The Etherian ships look like they're made of crystal. Beautiful, but scary. The Nebulari vessels keep fading in and out of sight, like they're not completely solid. And the Z-Fight ships move in perfect formation, like they're all controlled by one mind." Nins and Amy Foster appeared behind them. "Captain, we're getting new transmissions. The aliens are arguing about something." I hurried to the bridge where Amy played the latest intercepts. The alien voices sounded frustrated, which was the first emotion they had shown since the original declaration. "The humans are more widespread than calculated," said the mechanical synthery voice. "They have hidden colonies in 17 systems we did not detect." "The Verdani suggest patience," came the gentle plant-like voice. "Let them reveal themselves by trying to run." "No," said the Vorthok representative firmly. "We strike the known. Targets first. Fear will drive them into the open." Jake and his crew exchanged glances. The aliens didn't know about all the human settlements. Well, that was good news, but it also meant the outer colonies would be hit first and hardest. Back on Earth, the factories were working around the clock. Every ship that could be armed was being fitted with weapons. Old cargo haulers were given missile launchers. Passenger ships were turned into troop transports. It wasn't pretty, but it was all humanity had. Colonel Steve Adams stood in the main assembly hall of Luna Base, addressing a crowd of volunteers. These were miners, engineers, traders, and farmers who had signed up to fight. They weren't soldiers, but they were determined.
Out.
"We don't have fancy shields or energy weapons," Adams told them. "What we have is anger and stubbornness and the refusal to lie down and die. The aliens think we're chaotic and unpredictable. Let's prove them right." Major Nicole Wright was training the new recruits in tactics that no military academy had ever taught. "Forget everything you know about fair fighting," she told them. "We're not trying to be honorable. We're trying to survive. Use every dirty trick you can think of." The first test of human ingenuity came when Commander Dan Brooks encountered a small Z-Fight patrol near the asteroid belt. His ship, the USS Ranger, was no match for the 3 alien vessels in a straight fight. But Brooks had an idea. "Amy, can you broadcast on the frequency the Z-Fights use to talk to each other?" he asked his communications officer.
"Sir, but..."
"What are you going to send?" "Noise. Every kind of electronic interference we can generate. If they're all connected like a hive mind, let's see what happens when we jam their connection." The plan worked better than anyone expected. As soon as the USS Ranger began broadcasting static and electronic noise on the Z-Fight frequency, the 3 alien ships began flying erratically. They bumped into each other, fired weapons randomly, and seemed completely confused. They can't function when they can't talk to each other, Brooks realized. Their strength is also their weakness. Word of Brooks's victory spread quickly through the human fleet. It was the first time human ships had defeated aliens, and it gave everyone hope. More importantly, it showed that the aliens could be beaten. Dr. Park's research team made another breakthrough when they analyzed debris from the confused Z-Fight ships. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also highly specialized. Each component was designed to work perfectly with other components from the same species. "It's like they've never had to improvise," Dr. Park explained to Admiral Rodriguez. "Everything is designed for maximum efficiency in ideal conditions." But humans never have ideal conditions. We're used to making broken things work. The breakthrough that changed everything came from an unexpected source. Sergeant Tony Mitchell was a maintenance worker on a deep space mining station. He had never been a soldier, but when alien scouts attacked his station, he fought back with the tools he had. The Etherian boarding party that entered the station was made of beings that looked like walking crystals filled with bright light. Their energy weapons cut through metal like paper, and they moved with perfect coordination. But Mitchell noticed something important. They don't like electromagnetic pulses, he reported later. When I used the mining equipment to generate an M burst, they flickered like bad light bulbs. Made them confused for a few seconds. This information reached Dr. Park within hours. She immediately began developing weapons that could generate controlled electromagnetic pulses. If the Etherians were vulnerable to M interference, maybe the other species had similar weaknesses. Testing began immediately. Human volunteers used captured alien equipment while Dr. Park's team tried different ways to disrupt it. They discovered that Vorthok shields failed when hit with certain sound frequencies. Nebulary phase technology stopped working in strong magnetic fields. Each alien advantage had a corresponding weakness. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected place. Dr. Mary Johnson, psychologist studying stress responses in the new recruits, noticed something strange in her brain scans. Captain Morrison, she called him during one of his brief visits to Earth Station Alpha. I need to show you something. When humans experience strong emotions during combat, their brains generate unusual electromagnetic patterns. What kind of patterns? Kind that seem to interfere with several types of alien technology. Fear, anger, love, hope, they all create different frequency signatures. It's like our emotions are natural weapons. Jake stared at the data. You're saying that being human, actually feeling things, gives us an advantage? Exactly. The aliens see our emotions as weakness, but they might actually be our greatest strength. As the first alien fleets began moving toward human space, humanity prepared for war in ways the galaxy had never seen. They didn't have the best technology or the strongest ships, but they had something the aliens had forgotten how to use. The power of individual will, creative thinking, and the refusal to give up. The aliens wanted war against a chaotic emotional species. They were about to get exactly what they asked for, in ways they could never predict or understand. Humanity was ready to fight dirty, fight smart, and fight with everything they had. The real war was about to begin. The warning sirens on New Geneva Station screamed through the corridors as Captain Jake Morrison watched the Vorthok fleet approach. Through the observation deck windows, he could see dozens of massive alien ships moving in perfect formation. Their hulls shimmered like liquid metal, and they were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. All civilian ships evacuate immediately, Jake ordered into his communicator. Military vessels form up behind the asteroid field. We're going to make them work for this. The Battle of New Geneva was humanity's first real test against alien technology. The Vorthok ships opened fire with weapons that turned solid metal into glowing vapor. Human ships exploded like toys, their armor useless against the alien energy beams. But Jake had learned from Commander Brooks's victory against the Z-fights. He didn't try to fight the alien ships directly. Instead, he used the asteroids as cover and attacked in small groups, hitting fast and running before the aliens could respond. Focus on their engines, he told his pilots. Don't try to fight their shields. Slow them down and get out. The tactic worked for a while, but there were too many alien ships. One by one, the human vessels were destroyed or forced to retreat. Jake watched helplessly as New Geneva Station's shields finally failed, and the massive structure began to break. Apart, Captain, Lieutenant Ben Hughes called from his station. Refugee ships are launching from the station. About 50 civilian vessels. Cover them, Jake ordered. All ships. Protect the civilians. The USS Defiant and 3 other human ships formed a protective screen around the fleeing refugees. The Vorthok pursued, their weapons tearing through space. Jake's ship shook as energy beams passed close by. They barely escaped, jumping to hyperspace. Just as the Vorthok closed in, behind them, New Geneva Station died in a burst of light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The news of the defeat reached within hours. But instead of despair, something unexpected happened. The destruction of New Geneva made humans angry. And angry humans were dangerous in ways the aliens didn't understand. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood in the command center at Earth Station Alpha, surrounded by displays showing the locations of alien fleets. The Vorthok attack had been just the beginning. Etherian crystal ships were moving toward the mining colonies in the Kepler system. Nebulari phase ships had been detected near the trade routes to Alpha Centauri. "They're hitting us everywhere at once," General Patricia White said grimly. "Classic military strategy. Divide our forces and destroy us piece by piece." "Then we don't play by classic military strategy," Rodriguez replied. "We play by human rules." The Admiral activated the emergency command network that connected every human ship, station, and colony. Her image appeared on screens throughout human space. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all human forces. Geneva's gone, but we're still here. The aliens think they can destroy us by being bigger and stronger. They're wrong. We don't need to be bigger, just need to be smarter." On the mining colony of Titan Base, the message reached Sergeant Tony Mitchell as he prepared defenses against an incoming Etherian attack. Tony had become something of a hero after his discovery about electromagnetic pulses. But he was still just a maintenance worker at heart. "Listen up," he told the volunteer defenders around him. "These crystal aliens think they're invincible because their energy weapons can cut through anything. But they're not fighting anything. They're fighting us." The Etherian ships arrived like floating cathedrals of light, beautiful and terrifying. The crystal beings inside glowed with internal fire, and their weapons turned the colony's outer buildings into slag. But Tony and his people were ready. They had rigged every piece of mining equipment to generate electromagnetic pulses. As the Etherian boarding parties entered the colony, Tony's defenders hit them with wave after wave of M interference. The crystal aliens flickered and stumbled, their perfect coordination broken. "Now," Tony shouted, and his people attacked. With conventional weapons, while the aliens were confused, it wasn't pretty or honorable, but it worked. For the first time, human ground forces defeated alien invaders. The victory at Titan Base proved that humans could win, but it also showed the cost. Half of Tony's defenders were dead or wounded, and the colony was in ruins. The aliens were learning. 2. Adapting their tactics to counter human tricks. Lieutenant Commander Kelly Barnes commanded a small patrol ship near the edge of human space when she encountered something that changed the war forever. Her sensors detected a single Z-Fight vessel moving alone, separated from its fleet. "That's strange," she told her crew. "Z-Fights never operate alone. They're like bees. They need the hive connection to function properly." Kelly decided to investigate. As her ship approached the alien vessel, she noticed it was moving erratically, almost like it was lost. When she tried to communicate, the response surprised her. "Human ship, please help," came a voice in broken English. I am alone. The connection is broken. I do not know what to do." Kelly stared at her communication officer in shock. An alien was asking for help. This had never happened before. "This is Commander Barnes of the Earthship Horizon." "Who am I speaking to?" I was part of the Z-Fight Collective. But something happened. I can think for myself now. It is frightening and wonderful. Please do not destroy me." Kelly made a decision that would change everything. Instead of attacking, she brought the alien aboard her ship. The Z-Fight looked like a tall insect with multiple arms and compound eyes. It moved nervously, as if it had never walked alone before. "Happened to you?" Kelly asked. "Your Commander Brooks, his electromagnetic attack on my patrol group. It did more than confuse us. It severed my connection to the hive mind permanently. Now, I am... individual. Like you." Kelly sent an immediate report to Admiral Rodriguez. If one Z-Fight could become individual, maybe others could too. It was the first crack in the alien alliance. Humans were quick to exploit it. Dr. Helen Park began studying the individual Z-Fight, chose the name Solo for himself. What she discovered was revolutionary. The electromagnetic interference hadn't just disrupted the hive mind, it had awakened. Something that had been sleeping in the Z-Fight brain for millions of years. Individual consciousness, Dr. Park explained to the Admiral. It's still there in all of them, buried under the collective programming. We might be able to wake it up. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was learning that the war was changing the aliens in unexpected ways. During a reconnaissance mission near Proxima Centauri, He intercepted Vorthok communications that sounded different from before. The humans fight without honor when Vorthok commander complained. They use deception and trickery. How are we supposed to respond to tactics that make no logical sense? The Etherian fleet reports similar problems, another replied. Human emotional responses are creating electromagnetic interference that disrupts our crystal matrices. We cannot predict their behavior. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens were frustrated. They'd expected a conventional war with predictable enemies. Instead, they were fighting humans, who specialized in being unpredictable. The turning point came when Major Nicole Wright led a desperate mission to capture an intact alien ship. Her target was a damaged Nebulari vessel that had been separated from its fleet after a failed raid on a human convoy. Wright's boarding party used magnetic fields to prevent the Nebulari from phasing through solid matter, trapping them inside their own ship. The aliens surrendered rather than fight, confused by humans who refused to follow the normal rules of combat. "We do not understand," the Nebulari captain said through a translator. "Why do you fight so chaotically? War should be orderly, predictable." "That's your problem," Wright replied. "You've forgotten that war is chaos." "We never forgot," the captured Nebulari ship gave Dr. Park and her team their first intact alien technology to study. What they found was exactly what they had suspected: incredibly advanced systems that worked perfectly under ideal conditions, but failed when faced with unexpected situations. "They've achieved technological perfection," Dr. Park reported. "But perfection is brittle. Breaks when you stress it in ways it wasn't designed for." As the war entered its third month, both sides were learning hard lessons. The aliens were discovering that destroying humans was much harder than they had calculated. Humans were proving that being weak and chaotic could be advantages, if you used them right, but the real surprise was still coming. The individual Z-Fight named Solo was not the only alien beginning to think for himself. Across the galaxy, members of all 7 species were starting to question orders and make independent decisions, and wonder what it might be like to choose their own path. The war the aliens had started to preserve order was creating the very chaos they feared. At the center of it all, one human ship continued to prove that sometimes the smallest force could change everything. The war had been going for 4 months when everything changed. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, now commanding a fleet of 30 ships. Half were human vessels, and half were captured alien ships operated by humans, who had learned to use the strange technology. Captain Lieutenant Ben Hughes called from his station. "We're getting reports from across the galaxy. Something big is happening." Jake walked over to see the incoming messages. Reports were flooding in from human ships everywhere. Alien fleets were breaking formation. Individual ships were leaving their groups and flying away.
Wow.
Some were even asking to surrender. "What's causing this?" Jake asked. Ensign Amy Foster looked up from her communications station with wide eyes. "Sir, we're getting direct calls from alien individuals. They're saying they want to stop fighting. They want to think for themselves." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez was dealing with the same phenomenon. Her command center was buzzing with activity as reports came in from every front. The organized alien war machine was falling apart. Dr. Helen Park rushed into the command center carrying a tablet full of data. "Admiral, I think I know what's happening. Member Solo, our individual Z-Fight friend? He's been communicating with other members of his species. The idea of individual choice is spreading like a virus of free will," Rodriguez said. Thoughtfully, how is that possible? "Humans naturally form emotional connections," Dr. Park explained. "When we interact with the aliens, especially in combat situations, our emotional responses create quantum field fluctuations. But these fluctuations seem to activate dormant parts of their brains that control individual thinking." The Admiral stared at the data. "You're saying that just by being human, by feeling things, we're accidentally freeing them from their collective minds?" "Exactly. Love, fear, anger, hope. These emotions create energy patterns that awaken individual consciousness in species that have been living as collectives for millions of years." Meanwhile, on a small mining station near Jupiter, Sergeant Tony Mitchell was experiencing this phenomenon firsthand. 3 Vorthok soldiers had surrendered to his unit after their ship was damaged in a skirmish. Instead of the cold, logical aliens he expected, Tony found himself talking to confused individuals who were experiencing personal thoughts for the first time. "I do not understand what is happening to me," said one of the Vorthok, a large reptilian, being with silver scales. "For my entire life, I knew exactly what to do because the collective told me. Now I must decide for myself, and it is terrifying." Tony sat across from the alien in the station's small meeting room. "What's your name?" "Names are for individuals." "I was designation VX7744. "Well, you're an individual now," Tony said. "Need a name? What would you like to be called?" Vorthok thought for a long moment. "Victor, I would like to be called Victor." Similar conversations were happening throughout human space. Lieutenant Commander Kelly Barnes had become something of an expert in dealing with individual aliens. Her ship now carried representatives from 5 different species, all of whom had broken free from their collective minds. "The hardest part," Kelly explained to Admiral Rodriguez during a video call, "is that they're like children in some ways. They've never had to make personal choices before. Everything was decided for them by the group mind. But they're learning fast," she continued. "And they're choosing to help us. They don't want to go back to being part of a collective. They want to stay free." The effect was spreading faster than anyone had imagined. Commander Susan Wells led a strike force to capture a Nebulari phase ship. But when they arrived, the alien crew surrendered immediately. "We do not wish to fight," the Nebular captain explained. "We have been listening to our individual crew members speak of choice and freedom. We want to experience these things for ourselves." Captain Chris Baker had a similar experience when his fleet encountered a group of Etherian ships. Instead of fighting, the crystal beings asked for protection from their own collective, which was trying to force them back into the group mind. "We remember now," one of the Etherians told Baker. "Before the Great Joining millions of years ago, we were individuals like you. We gave up our freedom for security and perfection. Now we want it back." The alien leadership was panicking. Emergency. Meetings were held across their space as the Galactic Council tried to understand what was happening to their perfect society. "The humans are infecting us with their chaos," the remaining Vorthok collective declared. "Individual consciousness is spreading through our fleets like a disease. The Synthri calculate that 23.7% of our forces have been compromised," reported the mechanical species. "The percentage increases with every contact with human forces. The Verdani forests weep for our lost unity," said the plant-like aliens. "The trees remember when all consciousness was connected." This return to individuality threatens the natural order. But even as the leadership spoke, more of their people were choosing freedom. Dr. Mary Johnson's research into human emotional responses had been distributed to every human ship and station. People now understood that their feelings were literally weapons against the collective minds. When you feel strongly about something in the presence of aliens, Dr. Johnson's reports explained, you're broadcasting quantum energy patterns that can awaken their individual consciousness. Love is especially powerful, but so is righteous anger and protective instincts. The war began to shift dramatically. Instead of fighting organized alien fleets, humans found themselves protecting individual aliens from their own collectives. Refugee camps were set up to house Vorthok, Etherians, Nebulari, and others who had chosen freedom over security. Jake Morrison's fleet became one of the most successful rescue operations. His ships would approach alien formations and broadcast messages of hope and freedom. Individual aliens would break away from their groups and ask for protection. "This is not the war we planned for," Jake told his crew during a brief rest between missions. "We thought we'd be fighting for our survival. Instead, we're fighting for everyone's freedom." The aliens who remained in the collectives became more desperate and dangerous. They began using weapons that targeted individual consciousness, trying to force their escaped members back into the group minds. But these weapons had an unexpected effect on humans. They made human emotions stronger and more focused. Major Nicole Wright discovered this during a battle near Mars. A Z-Fight weapon designed to suppress individual thought hit her ship, but instead of making her crew passive, it made them more determined than ever. "It's like they tried to turn down our emotions and accidentally turn them up," Wright reported. My people are fighting harder than ever. The breakthrough came when Solo, the first individual Z-Fight, made contact with the human leadership. He had been traveling throughout alien space, spreading the message of individual choice. I have spoken to thousands of my former collective members, Solo told Admiral Rodriguez. Many want to be free, but they are afraid. The collectives punish those who think for themselves. What do you suggest? Rodriguez asked. A demonstration, Solo replied. Show them that individuals can be stronger than collectives. Show them that freedom is worth the risk. The Admiral looked at the star charts, showing alien fleet positions. Most of the alien forces were now split between those who wanted individual freedom and those who wanted to preserve the old order. It was a civil war happening across 7 species simultaneously. We're going to end this, Rodriguez decided. Not by destroying the aliens, but by giving every individual the choice to be free. She opened communications to every human ship and station, says Admiral Rodriguez, to all human forces. We're not just fighting for our survival anymore. We're fighting for the right of every intelligent being to choose their own path. Prepare for the final offensive. The last phase of the war was about to begin, but it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of trying to conquer or destroy, humanity was about to offer something far more powerful, the gift of individual choice. The aliens had wanted war to preserve their perfect order. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. And at the center of it all, human emotions continued to spread the infection of freedom to every corner of space. The final battle began at the edge of Earth's solar system. 7 massive alien fleets approached, but they were no longer unified. Ships broke formation constantly as more individuals chose freedom over collective control. The galaxy's perfect order was crumbling into beautiful chaos. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the approaching forces on his screens. His fleet now included ships from every alien species, crewed by individuals who had chosen to think for themselves. Victor the Vorthok served as his tactical advisor. Solo, the Z-Fight, coordinated communications with other free aliens.
Captain.
Lieutenant Ben Hughes reported, the collective fleets are firing on their own ships, the ones with individuals aboard. Jake felt anger rise in his chest, and he saw the alien crew members on his bridge respond to his emotion. Their eyes brightened, their postures straightened. Human feelings were still spreading the gift of individual consciousness to anyone nearby. All ships, Jake announced on the fleet frequency, protect the individuals. Every being has the right to choose their own path. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez commanded the defense from Earth Station Alpha. Around her, human and alien officers worked together in ways that would have been impossible just months ago. The war room buzzed with different languages as former enemies planned together. Admiral Dr. Helen Park called from her station. I'm reading massive quantum fluctuations from the approaching fleets. The emotional energy from our combined forces is creating a consciousness wave that's spreading faster than ever. How many are breaking free? Rodriguez asked. Thousands every hour. The collective leadership is losing control of their own fleets. In the depths of space, the remaining collective leaders held an emergency meeting aboard the largest Vorthok command ship. These beings had never experienced individual thought, and the sight of their perfect society falling apart terrified them beyond measure. The infection spreads too quickly, the Vorthok collective leader said. Soon there will be no unity left, only chaos and disorder. The Synthri recommend immediate withdrawal, the mechanical voice reported. Probability of containing the consciousness virus is now 0.3%. The Etherian crystal chambers sing songs of mourning. The crystal collective mourned. Our perfect harmony is becoming discord. But as they spoke, even some of their own council members began to show signs of individual awakening. The presence of so much emotional energy from the battle was affecting everyone. I have a question, said one of the Nebulari representatives, speaking as an individual for the first time in millions of years. What if chaos is not something to fear? What if it is something to embrace? The other collective leaders stared, in horror as another of their own chose freedom. Meanwhile, the battle raged across the solar system. But it was unlike any war the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of trying to destroy each other, both sides were fighting to protect individuals who wanted to be free. Commander Susan Wells led a rescue mission to save a group of Verdani, who had broken away from their forest collective. Aliens were being hunted by their own people, who saw individual consciousness as a disease that needed to be cured. "We remember the time before the Great Growing Together," one of the freed Verdani told Wells, as her ship carried them to safety. "We chose to become one mind because we feared being alone. But now we know that being alone and being lonely are different things." Captain Chris Baker found himself protecting Etherian crystal beings who glowed with new individual light. "The collective crystal matrix was beautiful," one of them explained, "but it was cold. Individual light is warmer, even if it is smaller." The turning point came when Admiral Rodriguez made a decision that would change galactic history. Instead of fighting the remaining collective fleets, she opened a communication channel to every ship in the alien armada. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of Earth to all beings in the approaching fleets," she announced. "We are not your enemies. We never were. You declared war on us because you feared our chaos, our emotions, our individual choices. But these things are not weapons of destruction. They are gifts of freedom." Jake Morrison watched as his admirals' words were broadcast across all frequencies. Around him, alien crew members translated her message into their own languages, adding their own emotional energy to the transmission. "Every being here has the right to choose," Rodriguez continued. "You can choose to remain part of a collective mind if that makes you happy. But you also have the right to choose to think for yourself, to make your own decisions, to feel your own emotions. That choice belongs to you alone." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the alien fleets, ships began changing course. Some turned away from Earth entirely. Others approached slowly, broadcasting requests for peaceful contact. Many ships erupted in internal conflicts as collective. Loyalists fought newly awakened individuals, but the most surprising response came from the largest alien ship of all. The Vorthok command vessel that carried the collective leadership suddenly changed course and approached Earth Station Alpha with its weapons powered down. "Incoming transmission from the Vorthok flagship," Amy Foster announced with amazement in her voice. "I am the one who was the Vorthok collective leader," came a hesitant voice. "I do not know how to be an individual, but I wish to learn. Will you teach me?" Rodriguez smiled as she looked around the command center. Humans and aliens worked together, each contributing their unique abilities, while making their own choices about how to help. "We'd be honored to teach you," she replied. "But remember, being an individual means making your own decisions. We can show you how we do things, but you have to choose your own path." Over the following days, the solar system became a refugee center for newly awakened individuals from across the galaxy. The moon's surface was covered with temporary shelters, housing beings from 7 different species, all learning what it meant to be free. Solo, the Z-Fight became a teacher, helping other former collective members understand individual choice. Victor the Vorthok started a support group for beings who were afraid of making decisions alone. The freed Etherians created beautiful crystal gardens where anyone could come to think quietly, Dr. Mary. Johnson established counseling centers to help former collective members deal with the emotional trauma of suddenly becoming individuals. "Imagine living your whole life as part of a group mind," she explained to human volunteers, "and then suddenly having to make every decision yourself. It's terrifying and wonderful at the same time." The war officially ended not with a surrender or a peace treaty, but with a celebration. The first festival of individual choice was held on Earth Station Alpha, with beings from all 8 species participating. Each person, human and alien alike, shared something they had chosen to do just because they wanted to do it. Jake Morrison found himself appointed as the first captain of the USS Unity, a new ship designed and built by representatives of all 8 species working together. His crew included humans, Vorthok, Etherians, Nebulari, Zephites, Synthri, Verdani, and Luminals, all serving because they chose to, not because they were ordered to. Our mission, Jake told his mixed crew as they prepared for their first voyage, is to explore the galaxy and meet other species. But this time we go not as conquerors or judges, but as friends, offering the gift of choice. The old Galactic Council was dissolved, replaced by the individual alliance. Instead of 7 collective voices speaking for entire species, the new council had hundreds of representatives, each speaking for themselves and those who chose to follow them. The galaxy would never be the same. Where once there had been perfect order, now there was beautiful chaos. Where once entire species thought with one mind, now millions of individuals made their own choices. Some chose to rejoin smaller collective groups. Others chose to live alone. Most chose something in between. And at the center of it all, humanity had learned something important. It started the war as the weakest species in the galaxy, chaotic and emotional and unpredictable. They ended it as the species that had given the greatest gift possible, the freedom to choose. The aliens had wanted war to preserve their perfect order. Instead, one human ship and the crew brave enough to fight for everyone's freedom had changed everything. The galaxy was no longer perfect, but it was alive with possibility, and that was infinitely better.